The stars outside Erebus Station looked still, but the station itself pulsed with movement. Engineers ran cables through narrow hallways. Robots floated past scientists. Outside, the dark shape of Virix 9 filled half the viewing window. Blue skies, green patches of jungle, and wide silver oceans. A paradise, to most people. Dr. William Wilson stood in front of the main observation deck, staring down at the planet. He held a tablet in one hand, a mug of cold coffee in the other. He hadn't slept. Not really. His mind kept circling the same thought. Something was wrong down there. William was a xenobiologist. He studied alien life, how it grew, evolved, defended itself. He had seen strange things across dozens of planets. But this was different. He turned from the window and walked quickly toward Lab 3, nodding politely to a few passing officers. Everyone here seemed happy, even excited. They believed they had found humanity's next home. Earth was dying, cities were drowning, resources were gone, people were desperate, and now this planet seemed to offer everything: air, water, food sources. But no one asked the most important question: why is it empty? Inside the lab, glowing screens showed underground scans of Virix 9. William tapped one of them and zoomed in. The data didn't make sense. Heat signatures, dozens of them, organized into patterns, not random, not natural. Dr. Wilson, a voice called. He turned to see Dr. Hannah Lee, one of the station's biochemists. She looked tired but smiled. Still working on those weird heat spots. William nodded. They're not heat spots. They're moving structures. She frowned. You mean machines? No, he said quietly. I mean something living, something coordinated. Hannah looked closer at the screen, but there's no trace of anything on the surface. That's the problem, William replied. They're underground. She looked uneasy now. William could see the shift in her posture. The room felt colder. An hour later, William sat across from General Cale Stroud in the command deck briefing room. The table between them was long and cold, made of polished steel. Cale, in full uniform, listened with folded arms as William explained the heat signatures, the patterns, the data. I'm not saying we're in danger, William finished, but I am saying we shouldn't assume the planet is uninhabited, not until we know more. Cale sighed. We've been scanning that planet for months, Doctor. No signals, no tech, no languages, just trees, water, and dirt. William kept calm. Intelligence doesn't always mean machines or radio signals. Some species, especially biologically advanced ones, don't need them. Cale's voice hardened. You think we should delay the colonization program based on temperature readings? William didn't flinch. I think we should send an unmanned probe into the underground structures first. See what's really there. Cale stood and paced. Earth is starving. We don't have time to tiptoe around every alien cave system. If there's no obvious threat, we land. That's the protocol. Protocols aren't made for unknown species, William said. That's why I'm here. Cale looked at him, jaw tight. The expansion fleet has orders. Colonization begins in 3 days. You have until then to prove there's a threat. Otherwise, we move forward. William wanted to argue. He wanted to shout, but he nodded instead. He had 3 days. Back in his quarters, William stared at the scan again. Each heat dot moved just slightly, like parts of a living network. Not animals, not wild. They were placed with purpose. A colony, maybe, a hive. And if it was a hive, how intelligent was the queen? His screen flickered. A new scan loaded. One of the heat dots had shifted upward, toward the surface. William's heart skipped. Something was coming up. He stood slowly, a deep unease crawling up his spine. Virix 9 wasn't silent. It was listening, watching, maybe even waiting. And Earth was about to knock on its door. The shuttle Orion 3 hovered just above the surface of Virix 9, its landing thrusters glowing red against the soft green grass below. Inside, the 6-person survey team was quiet. The usual chatter before a landing was missing. Even the pilot, Lieutenant Harris, looked tense. General Cale Stroud's voice came over the comm channel. Touchdown. Begin the surface sweep. Look for suitable sites for the first outpost. Report anything unusual. Understood, sir, Harris replied. From Erebus Station, William Wilson watched the descent on the control screen, arms folded, jaw tight. He had already tried to stop this mission. Twice. He had sent Cale updated scan data. He had shown new underground movement patterns. It didn't matter. They're just rocks and worms, Doctor, Cale had said earlier. We're not calling off a 1 billion credit mission because you're nervous. Now William could only observe as the shuttle touched down near a flat plateau beside a dense forest. The team stepped out in full suits, sensors scanning for toxins, pressure changes, movement. For a few minutes, everything seemed normal. The trees swayed gently in the wind. The air was clear. The ground was stable. It looked like a paradise, exactly what Earth needed. But William knew better. He watched as Specialist Renard Voss, the lead scout, approached a large mound of dark material. A nest, maybe. It looked like fused bone and resin, but smoother, as if grown, not built. Strange structure here, Renard said over the comms. No signs of tech. Looks organic. Proceed with sample collection, came Cale's voice. William leaned forward. No, don't touch it, he whispered to the screen. But no one heard him. Renard reached out with a scanner. Just as she did, the ground shifted. A sudden sharp vibration rippled through the area. The structure cracked open, not violently, but like a shell responding to touch. Then it came. A tall insect-like creature rose from the mound, not clumsy or wild but smooth and precise. Its skin was dark green and glassy. It had 4 limbs, each ending in fine, claw-like appendages. Its eyes glowed faintly with a pale yellow light. Renard froze. Contact. Contact. Unknown life form, she said, her voice shaking. The rest of the team raised their weapons. Hold your fire, William shouted at the screen, as if they could hear him. The creature didn't move aggressively. It tilted its head. Its mouth opened, but not to bite. It made a clicking sound, high-pitched, fast, repeated. It was trying to communicate. I think it's Renard began, stepping forward. One of the soldiers panicked. His name was Sergeant Brigg. He had been in combat zones on Mars and Titan. He wasn't trained for alien negotiation. He fired. The energy bolt struck the creature's shoulder. It shrieked, high and sharp like metal tearing. Then it let out a second cry, much louder, a call. The ground erupted. Dozens more creatures emerged from the surrounding forest, from the earth, from the air. They moved like a single mind, a swarm but controlled, each one glowing faintly, each one armed not with weapons but natural tools, claws, barbs, acidic mist, sonic pulses. The team didn't stand a chance. Screams echoed through the comms. Voss was dragged down in seconds. Brigg tried to run, but a sticky net covered him. He fell, twitching as something injected venom into his suit. The comms cut out one by one. Static filled the room. Then silence. William stared at the black screen. They tried to talk, he whispered. General Cale entered the control room minutes later. He looked at the blank monitors, arms behind his back. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally he said, "They killed our people. That's war." "No," William replied sharply. "We shot first." That was a warning, a response. "They're hostile. It doesn't matter why." William stepped forward. "You're making a mistake. They didn't act like animals. They were organized, coordinated. This was defense, not aggression." Cale didn't blink. "Then we hit harder. I want a strike team ready in 6 hours. Full ground assault. No hesitation this time." William stared at him. "You're going to start a war with a species we don't understand." Cale turned. "It's already started." Later that night, alone in his lab, William played back the audio recordings, the clicking language, the rise and fall of tones. He filtered it through his translator software. Patterns were forming. He was close to understanding them, but time was running out. Above the planet, Erebus Station was preparing for battle, and below the hive was already awake. The lights in the Erebus Station war deck glowed red. A siren pulsed through the air in steady waves. Soldiers in armored suits moved quickly, loading rifles and explosives. Shuttles lined up in the hangar, ready to deploy. General Cal Stroud stood at the center of it all, giving sharp commands. His eyes were cold and determined. "This is a sweep mission," he said to the assembled troops. "We neutralize threats. We clear the surface. This planet is no longer a question, it's an enemy." No one argued. Not one voice raised doubt. The images from the failed scouting team, blurry, chaotic, and final, were enough to fuel fear and anger. But in Lab 3, Dr. William Wilson was not preparing for war. He was trying to stop one. He sat in front of a screen, replaying the footage of the aliens' clicking sounds. Over and over, he listened, adjusted frequencies, compared tones. There were repeating patterns, signals of communication, language. These creatures weren't wild. They weren't acting from instinct. They were intelligent, strategic, alive in a way humans weren't ready to understand. A message pinged on his console. Mission launch 45 minutes. William stood. He needed to speak to Cal one last time. Cal didn't look up when William entered the control room. He simply said, "If you're here to talk me out of it again, don't bother." William stepped closer. "Listen to me. I've broken part of their code. I think I understand what they were saying." Cal's jaw tightened. "They murdered my people. They responded to a gunshot," William said. "Their first move was communication, not violence. They swarmed and killed every last member of that team. Because we attacked them first." Cal turned. "You think this is the first time humanity has faced a threat? We don't wait for alien governments to sign treaties. We eliminate risk." William shook his head. "If you do this, you won't be eliminating risk. You'll be provoking extinction. Theirs or ours." Cal didn't answer. The screen showed shuttles lifting off, heading toward Virex 9. It had begun. The first wave of troops landed just before dawn, local time. The jungle below the plateau looked still, but the soldiers moved cautiously. The mission was simple, clear and secure. For the first hour, nothing happened. No contact, no movement. Some of the soldiers began to relax. Then the ground opened. One of the troopers stepped onto what looked like solid earth. It collapsed under him, revealing a tunnel. He fell, screaming, into the darkness. His voice cut out. Two others rushed to help, but a burst of gas erupted from the hole. They collapsed instantly, coughing, writhing. Their suits melted. All around the team, small mounds cracked open. Hundreds of insect-like creatures emerged. Not clumsy or wild, but fast, focused, deadly. They didn't fire lasers. They didn't use guns. They were weapons. One creature shot a jet of acid from its mouth, corroding armor in seconds. Another unfolded wings and released a high-pitched scream that shattered visors. Some spat thick webs that hardened on contact, pinning soldiers in place. The humans fired back. Explosions tore through the jungle. Flame lit the sky. But the swarm kept coming. Back on Erebus Station, William watched the feed with growing horror. He saw how the creatures moved, strategically, as if led by a central mind. The same signals he had studied pulsed again in the background. The clicking wasn't random. It was orders. They were coordinated, tactical. This was not chaos. It was war. In the command deck, Cal gripped the rail tightly. "Send in the second wave." "They're getting overrun," said the officer beside him. Cal didn't blink. "Then send more." William turned away from the screens. He couldn't watch anymore. He returned to his lab, heart racing. He opened a private channel and began transmitting a new message, this time using the patterns he'd decoded from the alien language. A simple phrase, "We do not wish to fight. We made a mistake. Can we speak?" He sent it again and again. No reply. Hours passed. The jungle burned. Dozens of soldiers died. Some were taken. Some never found. Cal called the retreat late into the night. The mission was a failure. But William's message had finally received a response. A small signal, barely a whisper, returned to his console. It wasn't text. It wasn't audio. It was a pattern. It said, "Stop. Listen. One more strike, and we end you." William stared at the screen. This wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. and humanity was closer than ever to losing everything. The silence after the retreat was heavy. Erebus Station felt like a tomb. No alarms, no orders, just a quiet filled with tension. The second wave had failed. 47 soldiers dead, 18 missing. General Cale Stroud sat in the dim war room, staring at the holographic map of Virix 9. Red zones covered nearly the entire northern hemisphere. The swarm had expanded. They were spreading faster than expected. "This isn't just defense," Cale said to his command team. "They're preparing for something bigger." Behind him no one spoke. On the lower deck, Dr. William Wilson walked through the hall with urgency. His portable translator device hung from his shoulder like a weapon, though he saw it as a shield. He hadn't slept. Not since the message came. "Stop. Listen. One more strike and we end you." It had been sent in a clear pattern. Not random, not animal. It was language direct, deliberate. The aliens had received his message and replied. They were listening, and now they were warning. William stepped into his lab, opened the translator again, and tried something bold. He constructed a response using the same rhythmic pulse code. Short, clear phrases. "We hear you. We made a mistake. I want to meet. I want to talk." He sent the message once, twice, then waited. The reply came within minutes. "Come. No weapons. Alone." William stood in Cale's office, facing him once more. "You're going down there alone?" Cale asked, eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't have a choice," William said. "They offered to talk, but only with me. No soldiers, no guns." Cale slammed his fist on the table. "This is a trap. They'll rip you apart before you land." "Maybe," William said calmly. "Or maybe they're giving us one last chance." Cale stood. "You think I should just let you go down there, unarmed, and trust bugs that melted my men alive? I think the only thing worse than doing nothing," William said, "is launching another attack and wiping out the only intelligent species we've found in 100 years. Cale stared at him for a long time, then turned away. "You'll need a ship." An hour later, William stood in the Erebus hangar bay, prepping a small one-man shuttle. He had no weapons, no armor, just the translator, his suit and his mind. A few crew members watched in silence. No one stopped him. No one offered help. They simply stepped aside. As the shuttle door closed, William's hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "Shuttle Alpha 9, launching now," he said into the comms. The shuttle detached with a quiet hiss and descended toward Virix 9's dark surface. He landed near the jungle, at the coordinates they had sent. The air outside was warm, thick with moisture. Strange plants swayed without wind. The clearing was silent. He stepped outside, heart pounding. Every movement felt too loud. The translator in his hand beeped softly, scanning for incoming signals. Then he saw them. Figures moved from the trees, tall, smooth-bodied insects, each with thin limbs and glowing eyes. They didn't attack. They surrounded him slowly, forming a wide circle. William stood still, hands at his sides. One of the creatures stepped forward, larger than the others. Its carapace shimmered with patterns like sunlight through water. Its eyes locked on his. The translator buzzed. "You are the one who speaks." William nodded. "Yes, I came to listen." The creature's head tilted. "You speak for your swarm. I speak for the ones who don't want war." A long pause. Then slowly the alien raised one of its limbs and drew a shape in the air, a symbol. The translator struggled. "We did not choose violence. We answered fear. Your swarm burned, killed, again and again." "I know," William said. "We failed. We misunderstood. We attacked first. But I believe we can fix it. Why risk your life to say this?" William looked up at the massive creature. "Because if we keep going like this, both our swarms die." Silence. Then the creature stepped closer. A hum spread through the clearing, low, deep, almost like a heartbeat. The translator crackled. "One more act of war, and we destroy your swarm completely. This is your last moment. Use it well." The others turned and vanished into the trees. Only the leader remained. Then slowly it too stepped back and disappeared. William stood alone in the clearing. He looked down at the translator, Final warning, it read. He turned back to the shuttle and launched. This time he wasn't just returning with data. He was returning with a chance. A small, fragile chance to stop humanity from destroying itself and everything it had just discovered. William Wilson landed on Erebus Station just past midnight. Station time. The hangar was dimly lit. Quiet. Too quiet. He climbed out of the shuttle, tired but focused, still replaying every second of his encounter on Virex 9. He hadn't been attacked. He hadn't been tricked. The aliens, the Viren as he now called them, were intelligent. They could communicate. They didn't want war, but they wouldn't wait much longer. Their message had been clear. One more act of war, and we destroy your swarm. William rushed to the command center. He needed to speak to General Cale Stroud before it was too late. But he was already too late. The main display screen in the war room showed a countdown, red numbers ticking down from 0 hours, 14 minutes, and 58 seconds. 14 minutes until deployment. Cale stood at the center of the room, eyes locked on the screen, arms behind his back. Cale, William called out, breathless. You need to cancel this strike now. Cale turned. His face was calm, almost cold. You went down there. You saw them. And you still want us to stand down. I saw intelligence. I saw restraint. I saw a warning. We fire again, and they will not hold back. Cale didn't move. We've lost too many. This ends tonight. I'm launching the bomb. William's heart pounded. That's not a bomb. That's an extinction switch. You're not just targeting hives. You're targeting the core of their species. You destroy them, and they'll destroy us. The countdown hit 0 hours, 13 minutes, and 4 seconds. I'm ordering you to abort, William said. You don't have command, Cale replied. You're a scientist. I'm the one keeping humanity alive. William stepped forward. You're the one dragging it into a war it can't win. Lieutenant Hannah Lee entered the room, quietly, holding a datapad. She had heard everything. She looked from William to Cale, then back again. Her voice was soft but firm. I heard the message, the one the alien queen sent back. I decoded part of it too. She wasn't lying. They're preparing to end us. Cale's eyes narrowed. This is treason. No, Hannah said. This is survival. Cale turned to the officers behind him. Lieutenant Royce. Detain both of them. But Royce didn't move. Neither did the others. William noticed it immediately. Cale had lost the room. The officers looked at one another. Then slowly Royce stepped forward, but not toward William. He turned to Cale. Sir, he said, you no longer have the confidence of this crew. Cale's expression cracked. What are you doing? Following the truth, Royce replied. The countdown reached 0 hours, 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Cale lunged toward the console, but 2 guards grabbed him. He struggled. You're making a mistake. They'll wipe us out. William stepped in, calm but firm. No, you made the mistake, but we can still stop this. He reached the launch panel and entered the override code. The screen flashed. Mission aborted payload. Locked launch cancelled. The room fell into silence. Cale stopped struggling. William stared at the screen, then at the people around him. He had stopped the war, but just barely. Hours later, Cale was confined to a private holding cell on Deck 4. He would be transferred back to Earth for court-martial. The command of Erebus Station shifted to a temporary leadership team, made up of officers who had chosen diplomacy over destruction. William stood again in Lab 3, this time with Hannah and 2 other scientists. Together they were translating new incoming signals. The Viren had responded to the aborted launch with a simple message. We watched, you stopped. We will listen. William smiled faintly. It wasn't peace, but it was a beginning. Outside the window, Virex 9 glowed softly under its twin moons. Still wild, still dangerous, but not an enemy. Not yet. Humanity had pulled back from the edge. For now, and William, once just a scientist, was now the quiet voice that had helped stop a war. Virex 9 rotated slowly beneath the station, its thick green forests and shimmering blue rivers now strangely peaceful. There was no smoke, no fire, no movement on the surface. The battlefields had gone quiet. Inside Erebus Station, the tone had shifted. Soldiers who once trained for war now stood idle. Engineers returned to maintaining systems. Scientists resumed quiet studies. But the tension had not disappeared. It just sat lower, hidden beneath the surface, like the Viren themselves. Dr. William Wilson stood in the observation deck, staring down at the planet. His thoughts were heavy. The choice they made to stop, to listen, to wait, had saved thousands of lives, maybe more. But peace, he knew, wasn't victory. It was just the start of something harder. A soft chime broke the silence. Lieutenant Hannah Lee entered the room, holding a data tablet. "They've responded again," she said. William turned. "The Viren." She nodded and handed him the tablet. On the screen was a new message, not just patterns or pulses this time, but full sequences, words, sentences, translated through the code he had built with the Viren's own logic. It read, "You stopped your swarm. We see. You heard us. Now we will speak." He read it twice, slowly, then nodded. "They're ready," he said. "To talk?" Hannah asked. "To meet." Later that day, a new shuttle, painted white, unarmed, marked with a symbol of peace, descended toward Virix 9. Inside were no soldiers, only scientists, translators, and diplomats. At their lead was William. He wore a plain suit, his translator device fastened to his chest, ready to bridge two civilizations. They landed in a clearing marked by the Viren. A symbol was etched into the soil, circles overlapping, a representation of connection. The Viren approached, tall, calm, quiet. No weapons, no swarms, just presence. Their queen, or perhaps something like a queen, came forward. She stood before William and stared at him with her glowing yellow eyes. The translator clicked, then buzzed. "You stopped your fear. Can your swarm learn?" William answered softly, "We are trying." The queen tilted her head. "We have survived a long time. We watched others come and burn. You did not burn. That is new." William nodded. "We don't want your world. We want to understand it." There was silence. "Then we will show you." Back on Erebus Station, the crew monitored the peaceful exchange. Images began transmitting deep hive structures under the forests, glowing networks of energy, libraries not of books but of memory, stored in living organisms. The Viren were not just a species, they were a civilization, a culture. Earth had not discovered animals to conquer. It had found an ancient intelligence that lived by different rules, moved with patience, and remembered everything. Over the next weeks, a fragile agreement took shape. No weapons on the surface, shared knowledge, limited research under the Viren's guidance. And in return, the Viren would teach humanity their way of living, without burning their world, without killing it. They had survived millennia that way. Maybe humans could too. General Cale Stroud, now returned to Earth in custody, was mentioned only in official reports. A footnote in a story that had almost ended in fire. William, now known across Earth as the man who spoke instead of shot, was asked to lead the Interworld Diplomacy Council for Virix 9. He accepted, but quietly. He didn't want power. He just wanted to make sure no one lit the match again. One evening, he returned to the observation deck, where it had all started. Hannah joined him. "It still looks beautiful," she said. William smiled faintly. "It always was. We just didn't take the time to see it." She looked down at the planet. "Do you think we'll ever fully understand them?" "Maybe not," he said. "But I think they understand us. That's why they gave us a second chance." They stood in silence as the planet turned beneath them. No alarms, no sirens, no war, just life, breathing, waiting, watching, and this time so was humanity.